Hello my friends and welcome back. Happy Thursday. That's something nobody ever says, but I say it. Happy Thursday to you. To save your time, here is today's overview of the most important we're gonna discuss in today's video. But there are more things. First of all, we're gonna have the overview of the frontline actions of the Russian armed forces in Ukraine. Then there is intel that Russians have been extremely carelessly smoking in Crimea in their biggest airbase, the Sochi airbase, home to Su-30s. And also they were extremely carelessly smoking in the Bryansk Oblast, where in a warehouse where they held all of their Shahed drones. I mean, who in earth would smoke next to a drone that has 40 kilograms of explosives stacked into it? I wouldn't. And last but not least, a Russian general stepped on a Russian landmine. And that landmine sent him to bush up sunflowers in occupied Ukraine. He is the 7th Russian general overall to be demilitarized, liquidated, sent to sleep with the fishes in Ukraine. To save your time, I gather the most summarizing report of Russian armed forces in Ukraine from the Twitter user Tatarigami. This is Avdiivka, my friends, and north of it is Stepove, this settlement right here, which is the goal of the biggest Russian push in occupied Ukraine. From Krasnohorivka, they're trying to occupy Stepove. I'll read you the report. The Russian advance beyond Stepove has been thwarted. The highlighted area in the imagery from November 28th shows intense artillery shelling in the Stepove area. Russian forces persist in their attempts to establish a foothold at the AKH and expand their control in the wastewater treatment plant area. AKHZ is the coal plant. This is Terikon, the waste mountain, and Stepove is right here like you saw on the map. And this line here is the railroad. Russians have not yet been able to push over the railroad. This railroad is the front line right now. In the southern part of Avdiivka, specifically in the industrial zone, Russian forces have achieved partial control despite facing significant losses. The situation is too dynamic to ascertain whether they have established permanent control over the industrial zone. So in Avdiivka, we look at the real situation, not sugar-coated. Russians have been able to grab more land from the north, from Krasnohorivka, and a little bit from the south, from Vodiane. From the north, their goal is to occupy Stepove, and from that to occupy Berdichi and Semenivka, and then boom, they have established firing sectors on the most important Ukrainian logistical roads coming in and out of Avdiivka. There is a real threat, a real possibility that Avdiivka will be surrounded. I'm not here to lie to you, so I'm saying that Ukrainians might have to pull out of that settlement in the near future. As of now, no such plans, reports have been seen anywhere. Ukraine is holding on and standing ground very firmly, but the situation is getting more dangerous. While Russians throw away unit after unit into meat assaults, unfortunately they have managed to occupy some new areas with it, although very small areas. The most truthful summary sentence about the Avdiivka situation is that Russians are carrying insanely huge losses, but the situation for Ukrainians is also insanely difficult. Now, to illustrate what kind of losses Russians are taking by these meat assaults in Avdiivka, we have here Russian losses 30th of November. 1,180 liquidated personnel, or personnel sent to sleep with the fishes, or knocked out cold. Everything over 1,000 is almost 2 battalion tactical groups, although Russia doesn't make battalion tactical groups anymore. This was before the war. Now they just send men without any units to the front line, much like in the Battle of Stalingrad, which you saw at the enemy of the gates. They just funnel biomass through a corridor onto the frontline area to soak up Ukrainian ammunition and to soak up the Western ammunition sent to Ukraine. 13 tanks, 28 armored personnel vehicles, 1 artillery system. What is interesting here is the huge decrease in destroyed Russian artillery. Usually this is the high value target, but artillery is hunted usually with drones, FPV and recon drones who guide Ukrainian artillery fire, and there has been a huge storm in southern occupied Ukraine and Black Sea area, rendering the usage of small drones impossible, meaning the artillery losses for the Russians immediately decreased. That's why it is so small, the number here. My friends, 2 days ago I returned from Ukraine and oh boy, we had some insane adventures there. Too much to actually put into one video, so in every video I'll show you a segment of it. If you want to see everything, just go to my Instagram, link is in the description below. It's the easiest way to follow what I do in Ukraine, or when I'm going to US actually, what I do there. I'll post everything there immediately. But now in this footage you can see us training with the best Ukrainian Special Forces unit that officially does not exist. They allowed me to shoot all their weapons, machine guns, rifles, pistols. I handed them 50 kamikaze drones that you guys bought and they will put them into great use. They promised to send me footage.
Slava Ukraini! Героям слава! Слава нації! Смерть ворогам! Україна! Понад усе! Україна! Понад усе! Україна! Понад усе!
My friends, if you do not like dark humor, this channel is not for you. This is what I do here. I use humor to cope with this war, to survive reporting this war, because for a human brain, human mind, this is horrible. Every day 9 a.m. I wake up, I watch people die. And I have to live after my workday, so I need humor. And for that, for extremely spicy dark humor, walk away now, you have been warned. Let's watch a cat and mouse game by Ukrainian FPV drone. We have a Ukrainian drone searching for a Russian Vitnik Mobik, and he's running across this, I don't know, cart, what it is, and making circles around that cart, and that continues for a while. Maybe he will get away, maybe he won't, we don't know. This is the third circle already, and you can see the drone operator is having a lot of fun. And now he's going to another. Oh, he took up a stick. Boom, he missed with a stick. I mean, if you would have hit with that stick, you know, you see these little wires here. These are springs that activate the explosive. So if you actually hit with the stick, you can destroy the drone. So it was a good try, actually. But now the drone goes in for another round, aims it down and dashes down. Unfortunately, I cannot show you anything else. That's where the video stops for you. This is the kind of humor I do on this channel, and I'm not going to apologize because this is how I survive doing what I do. Now I'll zoom into an occupied Ukrainian frontline settlement in the Kherson area called Hola Pristan, and you can see a photo on the screen. This man is or was a Russian general, Vladimir Sawatsky. I mean, the family name is Polish, so might have some Polish roots. This general was behind Hola Pristan, so about 5 kilometers from the front, and this is not a very active part of the front. And this Kherson area and Dnipro area is known to have the least amount of landmines of the Russian-occupied Ukraine anywhere. So it is the best area for Ukrainians to push. But this general still managed to find these very few landmines, Russian landmines I have to say, and he decided to step on them, or actually demilitarize the landmines with his foot. Because you see, fastest way to defuse a landmine is to step on it. So this is what he did, and he was immediately knocked out cold, liquefied, sent to sleep with the fishes, or sent to push up sunflowers near Hola Pristan, making him the 7th Russian general knocked out cold in Ukraine. He was the deputy commander of the 14th Russian Army Corps. All over the Black Sea and in the southern occupied Ukraine, also in Kiev, when I was in Kiev, there was a huge storm, snowstorm. Now, in Crimea, in the mountains, the wind was 150 kilometers per hour. On the coastline, like in Sochi over here and Adler, the wind was 100 kilometers per hour. This is enough to rip roofs of buildings. We now zoom into the Kerch Strait because it's important, because, you know, the Kerch Strait is defended by dolphins and any kind of shenanigans Russians can think of to defend the Kerch Bridge, the Putin's pride and jewel. How did they protect this bridge against the storm? Well, the short answer is they didn't. Let's look at the damage done. This post is by Twitter user Brian. You can see him on the screen. Thank you, Brian, for this humorous post. This post covers the recent developments in the defenses near the Kerch Bridge, thanks to Daily Imaginary from Planet and taking advantage from Sentinel-1 SAR. We have a bird's eye view of the defenses to defend the bridge from USV attacks or Ukrainian marine drones. A post from Mush, pictures of the barrages with the spikes surfaced online. They were scheduled to be placed near the Kerch Yenikayla Canal under the Kerch Bridge to prevent USV attacks by Ukraine, which in the past has been successful in rendering the bridge unusable for months. So these spikes I do think this system is effective. These sea drones that I have seen would be stopped by these spikes and this tube right here actually, so it's a very cheap way to stop the drones. I cannot criticize it. Upon further investigation using Planet 3M imagery, these booms have started to be placed near the canal, defending the bridge from other attacks in 3 separate lengths, allowing easy removal if ships pass through the path. Meaning they're stacked together in these dots right here, and if there are no ships they will be pulled out again, so they will cover the entire length of the bridge. After acquiring SkySat satellite image, the booms bear similarity to the ones being placed at the Sevastopol port. One can even note the barrages that connected to them via the cable to ensure the booms stay in place and allow easy control to change their positions. A time-lapse of the region using Sentinel-1 SAR due to cloud cover in many Planet 3M images was used to show the defense's progression accurately. A custom script allows easy delineation of the bridge and the boom barrier. We can see the defenses being rolled out on this satellite GIF. Nevertheless, I have also added the Planet 3M time-lapse of the region for the October to November timeframe, which shows how the barrier is removed to allow easy passage of ships. The barrages play a vital role in this matter. In the recent storms that ravaged the regions of Crimea, the booms have either been washed away due to the rough seas or have been removed to prevent any damage to the booms. The storm has filled the water with silt, making it harder to know the status of the placed defenses. I would go with the version that every defense that was here before is now washed away, and that includes the entire Crimean western coastline, which was filled with trenches. We're talking about Avdiivka to Sevastopol, also all of this northern western coastline, everything filled with trenches, now filled with mud and water. Also apartments were washed away. You can see it all on the footage. I mean, of course, Russians will re-dig these defense lines, but I think this was Budanov talking to Poseidon, giving him the holy task of nullifying the Russian defenses in Ukraine. Next post comes from the Twitter user Tendar, and I really like it, and I have always talked about it, and people actually don't agree with me. The summary of the information is that most of the United States aid money that is funneled to Ukraine, and the United States people who write that this money should be used in the US, well, this money is being used in the US. If you follow the money, it doesn't physically or electronic, wherever transactions, it doesn't go to Ukraine. It goes to United States military companies producing weapons, producing equipment, logistics, medicine, everything. It is all made in the US because that is one of the terms in that military support. A portion of it goes to Ukraine, of course, directly, but most of it doesn't. Some United States politicians try to frame it as money is going to Ukraine, but the bulk of that money goes into American jobs. Of the agreed 68 billion USD, 90% are investments into American companies producing weapons to supply the Ukrainian army. That means everyone who is connected to making these weapons, if you are watching and working for a United States military company and they're sending something to Ukraine, well, that money is coming from the US to the US, only the product will go to Ukraine. In fact, 31 states directly benefit from that program, with Pennsylvania, Texas and Arizona leading. And here is the chart of the states making the most weapons, getting the most investments from the money allocated to Ukraine, which is actually allocated to US to produce stuff for Ukraine. Examples: Javelins, Alabama; Abrams, Michigan; Bradleys, Virginia; Oshkosh, Wisconsin; HIMARS, New Jersey; 155mm ammo, Texas and Pennsylvania. All of these weapons or ammunition is sent to Ukraine, but it's made in the US with the money allocated to Ukraine, so it pays American salaries. My friends, now I'll zoom into northern Ukrainian border, and this is the Russian Bryansk Oblast, and in this oblast Ukrainians hit a Russian warehouse yesterday with drones. I mean, the Ukrainians attacked with drones and the warehouse was filled with drones. In this warehouse the Russians were storing Geran 2 or Shahed drones made in Russia. These drones are very cheap and very dangerous. When I was in Kiev, we got the biggest drone attack of 2023. It was 75 drones, and I remember it started at 2:30 a.m. I was up explosions everywhere. I was quite scared actually, and about 3 hours later I ran to the shelter, and I was stupid enough to use the elevator from the 10th floor. I mean, I was high in the glass building, glass hotel, 10th floor, explosions all over, and I go to the elevator, listening to elevator music, going down slowly while everything is exploding. Genius, right? But 2:30 a.m. you don't think straight. Well, I'm glad Ukrainians hit that warehouse. Now that warehouse is just a warm fire for the Russians surrounding it. It's nice to warm your hands on it. And now, my friends, careless smoking is not over yet. Some of you are done with that sentence, but I'm not. I'm gonna feed it to you. The Russians carelessly and warelessly smoked in Crimea in the Sochi air base, which is home to the 43rd Independent Naval Assault Aviation Regiment. Oh, that was a mouthful. It's in Crimea, and it is home to 10 Su-30s and 5 Su-24s. These satellite photos are old, but it illustrates what Russians have in this air base. Well, they have everything. They have choppers, bombers, fighters, everything. So it's a very juicy steak, medium rare steak of a target, and Ukrainians sent some drones there. There were big explosions, which I cannot show because of YouTube gods. It was a wonderful fire show, and we're about to find out what are the losses. Russian aviation had a sad day yesterday. And now, my friends, we talk about Ukrainian hackers. I haven't talked about that for a long time. I think 2022 was when I lastly reported the hackers, but Ukrainian cyber resistance group called the Blackjack, they hacked into the Russian Ministry of Defense Info Communication Department, and they gained access to the Russian information and analytical system for online media monitoring, which is called katjusha. Of course it is, which analyzes public sentiment and skillfully manipulates it. So this katjusha monitors Russian social media, regular people like you and me, what they write, how they feel, and it skillfully manipulates it. I mean, Russian propagandists are using this database to know what to feed to the Russian people, and unfortunately, as bad as the Russians are on the battlefield, propaganda and this katjusha and manipulating their people, unfortunately they are very good at this. I cannot criticize at all. They have done it masterfully. So the Ukrainian hackers broke into it, and they downloaded 100 terabytes of data, of documents. And you know how small documents are. This is an insane large amount of documents which no human can ever analyze. It would need an AI program to analyze these documents to know which one are actually useful for Ukrainian SBU or for United States. Some of the documents are published also. And to give you a more fun story of the hackers, yesterday the Ukrainian hackers hacked into Crimean TV broadcasters and broadcasted Zelensky, Zaluzny and Budanov speeches to Crimean people. I mean, imagine you're watching your Tom and Jerry in Crimea, or no pogodi, equivalent of it in Russia, and suddenly you get Budanov, his face. If I was a child, I would be traumatized for the rest of my life. But great job, Ukrainian hackers. My friends, now I will read you Patreon names. This is something I do in every video because they give me security. Doing military YouTube is like walking on very thin ice, and Patreon is like this safety net for me. I can feel safe walking on that thin ice, and I can help Ukraine even more. So I'll read you 5 new names who are tier 10 and above. Justin Havk, Marin Kigelji, Ned Christiansen, David Puktenika, Martin ja Adele Pepper. Thank you to these 5 people. You have directly helped me help Ukraine. Until my next video, my friends, which is tomorrow, Slava Ukraini, and bye-bye.